So, hi Anmol. Before beginning, I just want to know about your journey from India to New York. Correct me if I'm wrong. You lived in India because I saw that you did your schooling from Barakhamba,
Yeah.
modern. So, and then you did some courses from Harvard, Stanford, and just that's just intriguing. So, how did you went there? Being settled in New York, being a trader, being an entrepreneur, and doing such great things.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I always wanted to go to New York, even like growing up in Delhi. Used to have like these images of like skyscrapers in New York City right above my computer desk. So I think for me, it was kind of like always a goal of mine, like to want to go there. So I just kept it top of my vision. I was like, okay, one day I'll make it happen. But I didn't know how it's going to happen. So the first step was like, started applying for college after finishing school, applied to like different universities, colleges, but I couldn't get in anywhere because America has SATs and all these GMAT, all these tests you got to take, and I was like horrible at math, so I was like, okay, this is not gonna work. So first thing I did was I went to college in London, which is
Okay.
much easier because you only have to take like one test. As long as you can speak English, you're good. So I got into university in London first, and then there in my dorm room is when I got really kind of curious about the stock market and I wanted to learn more about it. I think every guy at some point is very curious about the stock market,
Of
right?
course.
Yeah. So that interest got me really interested in it. And then I met a couple of friends in college that were also interested in it. So we said, we looked at if you want to be, let's say you want to play football, there's a football society in college, football club you can join. If you want to play basketball, there's a basketball club. You want to be an entrepreneur, there was an entrepreneurship society. But there's no such thing as trading or investing society. So me and my friend team up and we said, why don't we just start this new club in college called the Trading and Investing Society?
Okay.
So we started that. None of us knew anything about the stock market, but we just said we'll just meet like once a week and we'll just talk about, maybe something we read online, maybe a book we read and what we learned from it. And then that's how my interest in the stock market got started. And now many years later, that's a thriving club in college, has like hundreds of members. And we started that. So that was pretty good. So yeah, in college I started learning. I was a complete introvert, so I would be in my in my dorm room just looking at stocks, taking online courses, programs, reading books on it, and that what planted the seed into the stock market. And then the rest was just kind of working my way up. And eventually, when I had saved up enough money, I said, okay, I'm gonna go to New York. I'm gonna live on Wall Street. I'm gonna fulfill my goals. And then yeah, that's kind of how I got here.
Okay. I feel that it's great to live in New York. But I
Mhm.
want to know, how was it living in Delhi when you were there?
Yeah, for me, it was okay. Like I was very introverted, growing up. I would just be playing like Xbox. So I always kind of I felt like I didn't fit in, Like I
Okay.
feel like, oh, I'm not fitting in or I don't belong. I just felt like I was not in the right place for whatever reason. Maybe it's just a calling, from somewhere, but it was just like I never felt like I was part of the group or I didn't fit in. So I always wanted to make my identity. So I always my goal was as soon as I, turn 18, I want to move out and I want to create my new identity. So because growing up, you have this identity that your parents give you, your friends give you, and school give you, and then we get tied in that identity, and it becomes a part of us. So
100%.
for me, it was like if I move somewhere, nobody knows me there. I can be whoever I want to be. I can create my new identity. So that was kind of my motivational reason for wanting to move.
Yeah, I feel I can connect with it properly because personally, I'm from Delhi as well. And right
Right.
now, I'm also in Delhi. But I did my college in Mumbai. So there's this
Mm.
university which is like, it's recognized well. So it's
Right.
NMIS. And I did it from there. And of course, like I personally felt that I've changed my personality. People see me as a very different person there. And
Mm.
my biggest challenge that I came in Mumbai was like I did like a huge weight loss. I went through that, and that is
Mm.
something that helped me get my new personality. So I can definitely connect on that. As living in New York, I want to know: are you just into the US stock market? Are you also following the Indian stock market side as well?
Yeah, so I focus only on the US markets, the US stock market, just because I found like now it's different, but like when I started trading in 2010, there was not enough technology in the new Indian stock market. Like it was kind of outdated. It was a little bit slow. You had brokers and all these things you had to go through. whereas all the great software and everything was available for the US side. So that's why I started it. Now it's different though. Now, I mean, you have the same things available in India as well. But back then we didn't have that. So that was one of my reasons to wanting to do it.
So I just want to know your thoughts. What's as a trader, as an investor, what do you
Mhm.
think right now is the scenario in the market?
Yeah, I think right now we're in a very interesting, tricky point because all the stock markets have seen tremendous run up, right?
Yeah.
We've gone up a lot over the last like 5 years. So we're definitely due for like a pullback. And that's happening all around the world. I think there's a lot of inflation going on. A lot of people are printing too much money. And also there's a lot of, politics that are getting more nastier as they go by. And US elections are coming up as well. And the typical thing that I found is whichever direction the US economy goes, the rest of the world will also go, right? So the US markets crash and everything else will also come down. So I think long term, it's not a problem. I think long term, we're going to end up going back up. But I think in the short term, there's a chance of us getting a, decline in the markets as of now. Yeah.
Hmm. So you think that the breaking point towards like a bearish market is very near because the highs are going on for a pretty long time?
Right. Yes. I think we're definitely due for a pullback, but in the long term, it wouldn't matter because we're going to get that pullback. We might drop 35%, 40%. But then after that, if you
Hmm.
talk about next 3 to 5 years, I think we're going to go right back up again. But
Yeah,
short term, there's uncertainty. And it's healthy for the markets because it's not healthy if you keep going up. It's good to have, ups and downs
yeah.
because then that kind of a trend can last. But when we just keep going up, then the snapback can also be pretty ugly.
Yeah, so the pullback, I want to know about the pullback. That is it majorly because of stocks being so overvalued at a point when there's a bullish market, or are there many more reasons towards that we as a common people wouldn't know who are not into that
Mm.
core business or just we are investing for the sake of it.
Yeah, I think prices are definitely the big thing because as the price of the stock goes up, the valuations get, crazier. The
Yeah,
stocks become more and more expensive, and the sales haven't really grown, but the stock price has grown. So that's obviously a disconnect, which results in pullback. But also a lot of geopolitical changes happening in the world, right? There's wars in Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia, and other parts of the world too. And then there's the BRICS nation forming together to join maybe a new coalition. So there's a lot happening as far as the world being changing. But the biggest factor is money printing, especially in the US. Like we've been printing money like there's no tomorrow. We've been giving money to other countries. So that causes inflation and rise in cost of goods for people. And housing interest rates are also high. So people can't buy a new house or they don't want to get a new car because all the prices are really high interest rates. So I think all of those factors combine, where people stop maybe spending and stop cutting back on expenses.
yeah,
So that also causes a potential recession and slowdown in sales for people. But then there's a lot of other factors like currencies, right? Japanese yen has been really strong, US dollar has been weakening. And all those are factors that coming together create that scenario for a pullback.
yeah. Okay, so like I want to know, I don't know about the US market as much, but like I personally have seen in past few years, Indian investors and traders have increased a lot, by a lot,
Mm. Yeah.
and because of the upcoming boom as well. So do
Mm.
you think in both the markets, or anyone you would like to answer with, are there rise of emotions as well, or is there a part of technique and mind majorly involved in that? Because I know as a trader,
Mm.
as an investor, so few people are there who would be they would take all the calculated decisions, and they might do very well. But
Mm.
personally, I've seen many people, my relatives and all, there's a high of emotion rather than a calculated decision, which takes over.
Right.
So how important and how much do you think that there should be a balance, and how a person should go by for that?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think most people invest and trade on emotion rather than on data or any sort of information because most people are not in the stock market. So they have their own jobs, they have their businesses, and they just go by what people are talking about on CNBC or what maybe an article they read online. And they don't realize that, that the prices have already moved up. So I think there's a lot of emotion that people jump on something that's already going up, not realizing that maybe it's overbought. It's a little bit, pricey right now. And when things start to go down, that's when they should be buying. But then that's when they start selling and get fearful. They kind of do it the opposite way, whereas professionals are usually when nobody else wants the stock, we're buying it. When everybody else wants it, we sell it to them. So in our industry, we call it feed the ducks. When the ducks are quacking, you feed the ducks.
Yeah.
So if the stock is going up, everybody's coming in, your mom and pop, everybody's coming in to buy the stock. Then we're selling it to them basically. And
Yeah.
then when they're selling it, we're the ones buying it. So it's kind of the opposite of how most people do it.
Yeah, because personally, I have seen that, I recently, I don't know, 3, 4 years back, I just got an entry, as you said, that, teenagers at a point, of course, I don't want to say boys, but yeah, I've seen many males have this interest towards market, I'm trading. I think it's just cool to say yourself that you're a trader or you're an investor. And
Yeah.
I feel at a point, okay, if like I did under guidance of my father, but there are many people who just want to show off, they want to be cool, that I invest and they don't seek anything. They just live on tips and they just do
Yeah.
what their mind says. So I know it's pretty, scary, and I've seen people lost it. But do you think why do these people do this? Like they just want to have this social thing, or
Mhm.
do you have this, anything going on in their mind? Like I've seen many people, like even my friends, out of 10, I've seen 7 people doing this just out of sake of it.
Right.
And people just don't, think about that they're losing money.
Yeah.
So I just can't crack it. Why they want to be cool with this thing? There are many, I don't want to say, but there are many things to be cool with.
Mm.
But this is something became cool rather than something, as a business or something else. Do you have
Yeah.
any?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it sounds cool, right? Like you tell people, "Oh, I'm a trader, I'm an investor." So everybody wants to sound cool, and they want to put it in their Instagram bio. I'm a trader, or maybe take pictures with it. So, I mean, it is definitely kind of, especially after the movies like Wall Street and Boiler Room, it became more popularized, and everybody wanted to become that. And then there's nothing wrong with it because like I did the same thing when I started growing up watching these movies. You're like, "Ooh, stock market," I want to do that. So there's this little allure of it. But then there's also like this is one of the hardest businesses. So when you tell people that's what you do, it does bring a little element of, oh, you must be really good. You must
Yeah.
be really successful. So I think that's what people fall into, but they'll soon realize that if you don't have a strategy and if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, it's equivalent to gambling, right? Because then if you buy or sell a stock, you don't become a trader. Like pushing the button you don't become a trader. My mom can buy a stock. Is she a trader? Not really, right? So the thing is that you can do it for the short term to look and sound cool, but it's not going to be something sustainable for you if you don't have a strategy. If you're just trading on hope or emotion, or I think this will go up, your thinking doesn't matter. Market doesn't care who you are, right? Market doesn't care if you're an ex-CEO of a company. Market doesn't care if you're a janitor. Market is the market. It's going to treat everybody the same way. So if you don't have a strategy, you're going to end up losing the money. Even if you might get short-term success, in long term, you're going to give it back because most people take very small profits, but then that one trade that goes against them, they end up losing it all.
Yeah.
And so I think, but yeah, most people do it for that reason. But I would tell them to, focus on, is this something you actually like doing? Is this something you're actually curious about? Like for me, learning or reading about the stock market is not feeling like work. Like I love doing it. It's a game. It's kind of like a sport. It's
Yeah.
the closest thing to a sport. Because in a sport, you'll have good days, bad days. Same thing with trading. You're gonna have good days and bad days. But long term, you have to have a strategy that is not just based on hope.
I was thinking that, me being as a fresher, also, my background is for advertising, but I'm interested in this finance thing, market. Do you think that there should be an entry barrier, or people that don't have a background in finance should enter with a proper knowledge, or they should wait and gain their wealth, then they should invest?
No, I think everybody should invest in the stock market, even if you don't have any money, because even if you invest $50, it's better than $0, right? And your money will long term grow. But there's a difference between trading and investing.
Yeah.
If you want to trade, then yes, you have to learn first. You have to learn first. You also need to have a cushion because if you lose some money, you need to have that balance. So for trading, yes, you need to have absolute knowledge. You should not be trading if you don't know what you're doing. But investing in the stock market, that is something that everybody should be doing because that will grow your money 10 to 12% every single year. So after 10 years, you're going to more than double or triple your money
Yeah.
because of compounding, right? So everybody should be investing because if you don't invest, if the inflation is 7, 8%, then your money is losing value by 7, 8% every single year. So if you don't invest, even if you just put it in savings account, you're like, oh, I have it in my savings account, but it's losing money 7% every year. So you have to beat inflation. And the only way to do that is through stock market or real estate. So if you do it on stock market, you can get 10 to 12%.
Yeah.
I like stock market better because if you like invest in real estate, let's say now you need the money today, some reason. You can just sell the property and get your money in one day. But stock, I can sell it the same day and get my money back, right? So I like the liquidity to be able to flexibility to be able to exit any time I want. And I personally believe everybody should be investing because otherwise you are working and exchanging your time for your money every single day. And what if down the line, something happens? God forbid your health goes down, you can't work anymore, or God forbid something happens. Now you can't work. There's no money coming in. Whereas if you always regularly invested in the stock market, that money will keep growing in the long term. Like
Mm.
especially the Indian stock market too. If you put money, 10 years ago, you could have quadrupled your money right now. And if you didn't do that, you're sitting on the same amount of money that's in your savings account.
Yeah. Uh, People right now these days are saying that to make money, the best way is getting into the real estate or the share market.
Mhm.
And what I told my father a few days back that these days, of course, entrepreneurship also have become such a cool thing these days that people just want to write founder in their bio.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I feel is that a really great startup is making money these days. A
Mhm.
person who is in a creative field or in some arts is making money. And of course, a person with money is making much more money. Indian scenario is just based on these two. And if you'll see traditional people who are into traditional businesses, they just see markets and real estate.
Mhm.
So is the same scenario in US as well? Or are there, we know that US is much forward. So are there any new opportunities that we still don't know and we might know a few years later also?
Yeah, I think the biggest opportunity, obviously, see, stock market is something that for most people, it should be their secondary thing, meaning you should have your primary thing, which could be a job, it could be your own business, it could be, you have an online brand. So that's your primary thing where you're making the money from.
Yeah.
But then what you want to do is you want to take that money and then you want to invest it, right? So that's the how you want to be able to do both. So if I have my own trading, I do my own trading, I make my money, right? I have my own online businesses and stuff. We make money from there. But then we have a discipline of, okay, every month, whatever I make, I'm just going to take 10% of that and that's going to be invested in the stock market,
Mm.
right? So that's the main thing everybody should be doing. So the biggest, I think, opportunity is online space right now, like building your own online brand, kind of what you're trying to do with your podcast, right? Because that is unlimited. There's no like ceiling to it. You can be as big as some of the YouTubers that are making, tens of millions of dollars. You could be as low as anybody you want. So the new space is the online space, you becoming your own personal brand. And then maybe you get into the knowledge space, you start sharing your knowledge with people, right? Maybe let's say this podcast, a few years from now is like 1 million subscribers. Then now you're having your own course teaching people how to launch your own podcast, how you did it, right? And there's a lot of different ways, but that is the biggest industry right now is the knowledge industry. It's growing at billions of dollars every single year. So that's something that has a low entry barrier. You could be a nobody. You could just have a computer and you could still build your brand. So it's democratized the space. Nobody listens to news or the media these days. People listen to podcasts, they watch YouTube videos. That is the new media, right?
Yeah.
So you're basically imagine you were the one, you're basically the new CNN, right? If you're just getting into that space. So
Yeah.
I think those spaces have good amount of projects there. But then stock market is a discipline where you say, okay, you know what? I made $10,000 this month. I'm going to take 1,000 of that and I'm going to put in the stock market almost like it doesn't even exist. So you're not even looking at it. You just keep putting in 10%. So you still have your income, but 10% gets invested. And now in 10 years from now, that 10% is going to be way bigger than anything else you're going to make from your income. So that is the discipline in America, is that everybody has that discipline of whatever you make, you take 5-10%, put it in the stock market, don't even look at it. Because
Mm.
then when you're like 40, 50, 60 years old, now you got millions of dollars saved up that you normally would not have if you never invested.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but people in the US or people in the West, they don't see towards saving much as they like to spend what they're
Mhm.
earning. They don't believe in compounding as much. My neighbors, so they live in UK, and they were telling me that there are many people that they have seen that they don't just save for their future. They don't
Mhm.
know what they're going to do in future. They're just spending in their present and, living in the present thing. So do you think it is done in US or is it a rumor?
No, I think it's worldwide, because if you are, let's say, well off in India, then you're only looking at people in the same area. And you're like, oh, we all invest, we all save, right? But if you look at
Yeah.
the average person in India, they're living paycheck to paycheck,
Yeah.
right? So same thing in America. Like if anybody I speak to in my network, everybody has savings, everybody invests,
Okay.
right? But if I go to speak to somebody in like middle of America, like Iowa, Kansas, or even a big city like Los Angeles, people are living paycheck to paycheck because the expenses are really high.
Yeah.
So I think it's the worldwide phenomena. I would say Chinese and Indians definitely save a bit more because that's our mentality. Like, right, you want to save, but the mentality here is to take your savings and either start a business or invest so that saving can actually grow because you're not actually saving. You're losing 7% every year on
Yeah.
inflation, right? Some countries even more. So it's not actually saving. You can say I have the same rupee amount, but
You're
when
not.
I moved to the US, a dollar used to be 40, $50 rupees for a dollar. Now it's 80, 90. So you're not really saving money. You're actually losing money every year, right? So the only way to beat that is to either invest in yourself, in your own business, or to grow that business, or to invest in the stock market or real estate.
Okay. So, coming on to the Instagram part, uh, what's the story behind Delta 90?
Yeah, so it's an options term, Delta 90. When we trade options, there's a thing known as a delta in the option. So I used to trade those options all the time. When I started, I put my name as Delta 90. I didn't, I wasn't really any popular or anything back then. So I didn't expect this to, take off. But now it's, grown, account was verified and all those things. So now I can't change it. So I'm stuck with it. I wanted to change it to my name, but now I'm like, if I change it, then everywhere online is Delta 90. People will try to search me. They won't find me. So I just kept it the same username. But yeah, I would like to change it, but it's too late.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I saw a video on livetraders.com that, there's a video uploaded titling A Day in the Life of a Millionaire Trader.
Hmm.
And I just saw that and I was mesmerized. For me, living in Delhi, seeing such a lifestyle from this,
Hmm.
I think it's a vision, it's a thing that many of us just dream,
Right.
and you are living that dream. What would you tell us as a beginner, as a fresher, that you know this is a course that this is a way out, that you can
Mm.
do this, you can learn this thing in a way, and you can try these things and you might achieve this. I know
Mm.
it cannot be in a proper growth pattern, but there must be something that you know be to crack this.
Yeah, I think the first thing is you got to believe it, right? Like, because if you don't believe it, you're never going to achieve it, right? So the first thing is to kind of set a goal, right? Okay, I want to, and give it make it a specific goal. It could be like, okay, next 5 years or next 10 years, whatever the timeline is, I want to do this, whatever the goal might be. If it's moving to a different country, is it starting a business or having a successful podcast, whatever, like you want to have the goal. And then you want to be confident enough that you can say that to everybody,
Yeah.
right? And that's a tough one because we don't want to say it to people, oh, what if I fail? What if they doubt me? What if they think, oh, he's just aiming too high, right? All these societal pressures of like us not wanting to tell people what our goal really is. But then if you don't tell other people your goal, then that's low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and you're never going to achieve your goal with that level of mindset. So even when I was still in India, I would say it to everybody, I'm going, I'm going, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to do this. And I would be trading and, even from India, trying to learn a little bit about the stock market. And then people would always kind of look at you funny. Oh, you're still doing that stock market thing. How's that going? You still gambling, and all of that. And I would still say, yeah, I think I'm on my way. I'm going to be a successful trader one day, because you first have to believe it yourself, right? If you don't believe it, how do you expect the universe to believe in you? How do you expect God to believe in you if you don't believe in your own self, right? So the first step is belief, right? And the second step is to say it, right? Like use your words, like say it out loud that that's what I want. So when I used to have pictures of New York City and all of that above my monitor in my computer, right? That was me looking at it every day. That is
Mm.
my goal,
Yeah.
right? That is my goal. What do I need to do today to get closer to my goal? right? And not looking at this big mountain that is unachievable, unattainable, but what's the next step that I can take to get me 1% closer to that goal? Is it starting a business? Is it learning a new thing, right? Is it doing this? What's the next step? So I think that's what we got to look at. So that's step number one. The second thing, which I wrote about in my book, Prepping for Success, is to have integrity. Be a person of integrity. Be a man or woman of integrity, meaning do what you said you're going to do and then do it when you said you're going to do it. Simple as that. And a lot of time people will say, but I'm a person of integrity, Anmol. I'm like, really? When is the last time somebody called you and you said, hey, I'm just in the middle of something. Let me call you back. And you never did, right? You never called them back. Or you ran into an old friend somewhere. You're like, hey, good to see you, buddy. We should totally catch up. And then you make no attempts to ever catch up with them, right? You just said something that you don't believe. Why do we do that? We do that because we're trying to look good in front of other people. We don't want to look bad. We want to be nice, but you're basically not following through on your own belief. You're following the ways of the world. And if you're going to follow the ways of the world, you're going to get the results that everybody else gets. So if you want to create extraordinary results, you have to block out all distractions and you have to stay true to your own goal. And anything else comes in the way, you're able to say no to that. Right. Like there was a whole time in my college where everybody would go party and all these things. And I'm in my dorm room learning how to trade stocks and reading books on it. So I sacrificed a lot of that for my goal because my goal was way more important to me. Because I know that even if I go out and party and have a good time, have fun, but deep down, I will never feel good because I betrayed my own goal. Right. So my number one priority is to my goals. Every morning I wake up, I only look at what are the 6 things I can do today to get me just a little bit closer to the goal. And that's all that matters to me. Everybody else, any negative opinions, I don't pay attention to any of that.
I feel like there's a lot of luck involved.
Hmm.
Do you think that there's a
Um, oh, I don't. I mean, I don't believe in luck. Because you could, if you don't have, let's say, if you get the opportunity, right, but you're not prepared,
yeah.
you're not gonna get lucky, right? Or if you are prepared but you don't get the opportunity, you're not gonna be lucky. So the luck is when preparation and opportunity meet. So when an opportunity comes, you're prepared to take advantage of that opportunity, and guess what? Other people will call you lucky, right? But that I don't believe in that. I believe that there's a calling that everybody gets in life, right? There's a part of you, a thought that comes in, I should be doing this. If you don't pay attention to that call, it'll go away. It's kind of like a drift, right? God, universe gives you a little thought. Hey, you should look into this. And you ignore it. Oh, maybe not for me. And guess what? That opportunity goes down. You're not going to get lucky. The people who get lucky are people who listen to that opportunity, listen to that voice, and then they take actions to get closer to that. They get prepared, they get learned, they talk to everybody in their industry. When I came to New York, I would hit up everybody on LinkedIn. Who can I take out for coffee today? Hey, who can I, meet up for lunch today so I can just learn a little bit more about the business, right? So then I put myself in those scenarios that if you put yourself out there, luck will show up. But if you stay in your room, you never get out there, you're not going to get lucky. So I don't believe too much in luck. I believe that you create your own destiny.
creating your own opportunities?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've seen as a again, as a fresher, as a beginner, uh I've seen people just entering the market, doing stuff, creating their own portfolio, investing in funds, buying stocks, and this and one thing leads them to the failure.
Mm.
So as a beginner who is wanting to invest, or someone like a pretty good age, he wants to enter the market with some money, so he should be preparing his own portfolio along with investing in funds, so they don't have to be always looking out for the funds, or they should only invest in mutual funds, they should create their own portfolio.
Yeah, for most people, I would say don't try to pick stocks. Just invest in index fund. Just invest in the overall market. BSE, Sensex, whatever it's in India, NFT. Just invest in the overall stock market, right? Because then it'll always keep growing long term. If you try to pick stocks, then we're taking a little bit of a risk. What if the stock is a wrong one? Or what if it's a good stock, but it's already gone up, so it might still come down when you buy it. So I think for 90% of the people, you should not try to have your own stocks that you're picking. You should just invest in the overall market, because then you're betting on the economy. You're betting on the overall country doing well, right? And the way the market is created is that it's long term always going to go up.
Hmm.
Why? Because every few years they remove all the bad stocks from the index, they add the new ones in. So it's designed to always go up. where stocks can go up and down, and they could go down for a long time and you might never recover from it. So I think stocks should only be picked if you know what you're doing, if you're educated, if you learn, like if you've gone through some of the courses and programs we've had and you know what you're doing, you know how to look at charts, then you can pick stocks and you build your own diversified portfolio. But for 90% of people, just buy an index fund is the best thing ever. Mutual funds, not so much, because mutual funds charge fees, right? So even though they might make you money, they're charging their fees. You're better off just buying the overall market yourself as an index.
Hmm. Okay. So what do you think the one of the major mistakes people make while investing or trading?
Biggest mistake is they trade on emotion. They trade on a tip. Oh, this person told me to buy this stock, I'm going to buy this stock. So now you're trading on tips, right? And think about it. You're listening to whose tip? What are their results? Can they show you their track record? You're listening to some uncle who told you to buy this stock, but is he doing well? Is he already there where you want to be? Right? And so, because most people will always tell you what to buy because they probably have it, so they want you to buy it so it can go up. But nobody will tell you when to sell, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to call you, hey, I gave you the tip a few years ago, you should sell it. Nobody's going to tell you when to sell. They always tell you when to buy it because they're probably in it themselves and they want somebody else to buy it. So I think that's the thing. So trading on tips is the wrong way to do it. Trading on an article you read online or something on CNBC you watched, all of that's delayed information because that's already been out there, right? And so there's no advantage in that. And the other thing is, you need to know your plan on when you're going to get out. Both ways. If you buy a stock, it goes up. What's your target? When are you going to take profit? Same way, if you buy a stock, it keeps going down. What's your exit plan? Are you just going to keep holding? Are you going to hope maybe it'll come back up? Like you can't trade on hope. So you need to know your plan before that. Like when you're going to get in, when you're going to get out. You need to all those things you need to know.
As we watching news and everything, it's a delayed information. So,
Mhm.
so as a trader or a person who is investing, how
Right.
can they be ahead of the market trends or the news?
You need to know how to read charts. So charts are the price action, the price history of the stock, where it's coming from, where it's going. Because then you'll start to, if you zoom out on the chart, you'll start to see trends, right? So
Okay.
something's clearly, let's say, in a nice uptrend. Okay, you probably want to be in that stock. But if something is going down, like you don't want to just buy it as it's going down because it could keep going down. So
Yeah.
what we want to see always as traders, we look for change of trend. Maybe
Hmm.
something is going down and then it suddenly starts to just go sideways again, right? Then okay, maybe it's stopping going up. But as soon as it starts to kind of go back up, that's where we're looking to get in. So we're in a new uptrend. But chart reading is a skill. It's just like pattern recognition,
Yeah.
but it's a learnable skill, and you don't need to be a professional trader to learn how to read charts. Anybody can learn how to read charts, but that charts keep the emotions out of the way, right? Because there's no emotions. You're looking at the chart, either it's going up, either it's going down, either it's going sideways. There's only three things the stock can do. It could go up, down, or sideways. Nothing else it can do. So once you realize that it can only do three things, then you need to be, you know when to buy it. You either want to buy it on the sideways or on the uptrend, not on the way down, right? So I think chart reading is something that people should spend more time learning. There's a lot of books on this subject. Even on my website, livetraders.com, if people make a free account, they're going to get a 2-hour video where I talk about the basics of chart reading. And I think that's a good place for most people to start to learn how to get involved in the markets.
What is the one thing or two things that actually make money, that actually make you money? If you
Yeah, there's a lot of different strategies we use. So that might be a bit more complicated explaining it on audio. Like it's much easier if I'm sharing screen and everything. But it's like um, there's a lot of different strategies. There's short-term trading strategies where, like, before I hopped on the podcast, I was trading. So short-term could be as simple, like as small as like 1 minute.
Hmm.
Like I just bought something and it moved up a little bit. 2 minutes later, I'm already out. But we're taking small profits, but with large amount of money,
Yeah.
right? So large sums of money, but taking small movements. So that's what we do as day traders. But then there's another style known as swing trading. Swing trading is not where we're getting in and out the same day. Swing trading is when I might buy something today and I might sell the stock 3 days later or 1 week later, right? That's called swing trading. And then there's core trading. Core trading is very similar to investing, where I might buy a stock, but I might hold it for a few months, few years,
Okay.
right? And they're all based on charts. So if I'm looking at a short-term time frame chart, like a day-to-day chart, then that'll be more for swing trading. If I'm looking at a monthly, weekly chart where each bar is like 1 month, 1 week, then that will be for core trading. And then as a day trader, I might use 1 minute chart. So every bar is like 1 minute, new bar is forming.
Yeah.
So again, a little bit complicated to explain like this, but chart reading is kind of the way we make all of our decisions.
Okay. So, personally, like me also seeing on the platforms and everything, what we see is there's a delivery, there's intraday, there's futures and options. And
Mhm.
options we have, I think, call and put, right?
Yeah.
So I know that uh delivery is so okay. You know you have to invest for long term. You pick the right stocks or you invest in some index. But what would you recommend to get in if you have knowledge with the proper knowledge? What would you recommend to get in? Is it intraday trading? It is it futures? Is it options?
Yeah, I think a good trader, like a professional trader, will do all of them.
Okay.
Like we basically call ourselves opportunists, right? If it's an opportunity for a quick trade, we'll take a quick one. There's opportunity to maybe hold something for a few months, we'll do both. So a good professional trader will do all styles. So the way we do it is day trading is for income. That's what I live off. I make money every day. I pay my bills, right? Pay your rent, whatever. So day trading is for income. And then the long other styles are for wealth building. So day trading is to make a monthly income so you can live off it, pay your bills. And then the other styles are where you're taking an account and you're not taking money out of it. You just keep growing it every year, keep growing it every year. So that's
Yeah.
called wealth building style. So everybody should, not everybody, but like professional traders should do all of them.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody who already has a job, already has another business, you can't sit in front of your computer all day, then you want to do the other styles we talked about, swing trading and core trading. And I think most people should just stick to stocks,
Hmm.
right? Because options is a different ball game. It has a lot of different variables. Even if you buy the stock and it hasn't gone down, but the option can still lose money. So for options, you need to know what you're doing. You need to have, taken some courses, gone through some skills. So yeah, I think most people stick to stocks, stick to swing trading, long-term trading, and then if you already have another job or business, but if you're somebody who wants to learn how to do this full time, then obviously get trained, and then you can start to do all those styles.
Okay. So it's all about, getting new and majority of the opportunities from the place that you can get.
Mhm.
Okay. What uh, would you recommend as per your own interest or for the audience that they should, read, or any podcast, any books that you would recommend they should definitely, not just about trading and investing, but they should definitely know about, going in their personal life, creating a high lavish lifestyle, or just getting their dreams done and everything.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the first book I would recommend is by Stanford professor Carol Dweck. The book is called Mindset. I think that's the best book everybody should read, and not just read, like apply it into your life. So she talks about having a growth mindset. So not looking at problems or what's going wrong, but okay, what can I do about it? So training your mind, always not looking at, oh, this went wrong or this went wrong or this is not going well. Forget about what am I going to do about it? So training your mind to always look at, okay, how can we fix it rather than looking at the negative. So that's a great book. The other book I would recommend is Three Laws of Performance by Steve Zaffron. Not Zac Efron, the actor, Steve Zaffron, the author. So it's a really good book, Three Laws of Performance. It's a really great book you should read. And then obviously the third one is my book, Prepping for Success, 10 Keys for Making It in Life.
Yeah.
That's on Amazon, Audible, Barnes and Nobles, wherever you get your books. And that is a culmination of everything that I've learned in my own journey. So I've spent at this point millions of dollars hiring coaches, mentors, attending retreats, workshops, working with like the top performers. And I took everything that I learned from everybody and I just put it in this book. So the first chapter of the book says, there's nothing new here. Like you probably know all of this at some point or the other. You probably read it somewhere, but the thing is you're not applying it. So you can read all you want. You're just hoarding information. Information is not going to change your life because a lot of people know everything. You ask them about something, they already know the answer. But I'm like, then why aren't you not doing it? Why are you not applying it into your life? So that's why every chapter of my book ends with, okay, here's the 5 things you need to do before you can move on to the next chapter. Because I don't want you to just finish the book and say, oh, yeah, I read the book. I read 10 books this week. I'm like, but your life doesn't demonstrate that you've done any of that. Right. So stop being like a reader, moving from one podcast to another podcast, one book to another book, and you say, oh, I'm so knowledgeable. I've learned all this. But no, true knowledge is applied knowledge. Otherwise, it's just information.
Yeah, if you're not applying, you're just reading text.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just reading it and you're probably not going to remember it. If I ask you 5 weeks
Yeah.
later, what did you read in the book? You're not gonna remember anything.
Mostly globally, trends follows after what US has shown, right?
Mhm.
So what would you tell us about, any specific industry, or, like current trends? If you want to talk about what are the current industries that might be booming or are in the stage which is they have done their growth, but they have so much more potential.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I think the biggest one which I talked about earlier is the new media is the big thing. New media, like these days, podcasts and everything else have more listenership and viewership than major TV shows,
yeah,
right? Major TV shows might only have 100,000, 500,000 million people watching it. A podcast these days, if you're doing it really, really good, you get 5, 10 million views, and just the advertising revenue of that is pretty big. I
yeah,
mean, most of the podcasts make millions of dollars in advertising revenue. So that is an industry, the new media, I call it, because it's not just podcasts. It's you having, your own shows, your own channels, your own, live streams. I think that is an industry that is disrupting the current media landscape. So there's a chance for this new media to take over the old media, just like Netflix beat Blockbuster and their DVD rental businesses. So the same thing is happening here. So that's the big industry. The second thing is obviously is AI, right? But AI is obviously taking off right now. People are using AI in their existing businesses. So it's not just like Chat GPT, where you have an AI. AI is you. How can you use AI in your own business, right? So for trading, like we have our own software that I built, like so it already kind of knows some of the things that I might want to do, and it does it for me. So even though I can be going downstairs, walking around, the software will be doing the trades as I've informed it to. So I think AI is obviously a big industry. It's going to disrupt a lot of different industries. It's going to disrupt even the creative field, where there was videographers and video editors, but now there's so many softwares. You just upload the clip. They're making clips out of that. And then copywriters are also going to get disrupted. People used to hire copywriters to write, for their website, for blogs. Everything can be done on AI now. So I think the creative field, a lot of fields are going to be disrupted with that. But obviously Tesla is disrupting the car industry, right? They're going to be launching the robo taxis in America. They're going to be doing the full self driving with the car. I mean, it's available right now. You can sit in the car, it drives itself to where you put in the GPS. So that's going to disrupt the taxi business and all these different businesses. So we're at a cusp of a very big transformation in the whole global economy, where a lot of industries are going to be disrupted. So if you're not somebody who's on the top of your game, always knowing what's happening, what's coming new, you're going to be left behind, just like many businesses in the past have been, right? BlackBerry, best mobile phone. Nokia, best mobile phone. They had such a big lead, but they never innovated. They stayed the same. And Apple came in and took everybody's business. Then there was MySpace, High Five, Orkut, and then came Facebook. They beat everybody's businesses, right? So if you're not staying on top of your industry trends, then you're going to be left behind. And I think that's going to happen in pretty much all industries. And I think developing countries, especially like India and stuff, they really need to focus on this. Otherwise, it's going to be a big problem, like we saw a few years ago, where I remember, like even 10 years ago, I used to tell some of my friends who are in the clothing business and all these businesses that you need to go online. You need to have an online store. You need to be on Amazon. You need to be on all these websites. And people underestimated it. Oh, our business is not going to happen. It's going to be fine. It's a relationship business. And they kept saying all these things. In India, it's different. It's different in India. Online's not going to be a thing. And now everybody's struggling. The clothing manufacturers, because Amazon's everywhere. They're selling Flipkart. Everybody's buying Chinese clothing. And the Indian businesses have gone down because they were too complacent. They didn't want to innovate,
yeah.
and they were very like, oh, like the mentality, chalta hai, chalta, everything is fine.
Okay.
Oh, quit problem nahi hoga. And then all those things are what causes you to get left behind and other people to take your businesses.
Okay. But I want to know more about this in reference in context to the stock market.
Mhm.
So right now in India, what we think is, EV and tech is something, rather than tech, EV, we think is something is really growing in India in this
Mhm.
past 2, 3 years, I would say. So people here are consistently talking about, invest in power stock and invest in EV stocks and everything. I want to know what are the industry trends or industry which is, actually might be leading this time or might be on a path to grow in, a few span, and any specific stocks if you would want to talk about on that.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with like the Indian stocks, but you know, the
So
key is
it
like to
might be,
always,
yeah, it can be
I
from a
think,
global, yeah.
yeah, I think people should look at what's happening in other countries because there's so much potential to make money in India. It's insane, even in the stock market, because India is lagging, meaning everything happens in the US first, and 3 to 5 years later, it comes to India, right? So all you need to do is just monitor what's happening in other countries and be the one to be the first one in India. So when Amazon, all these businesses were starting, right, there was people who made Flipkart and all these other businesses, right? They raised billions of dollars in valuation, right? All these companies. Because they already saw, oh, everything's going online there. It's going to come to India someday. Why don't we be the first one, right? And then there was Uber in other countries in America. Then in India we had Ola cabs and all these other cabs. Again, so they were looking what's happening outside, and why don't we be the first one? They started in India, and now they're booming. Meru cabs, Ola cabs, all these different companies. So all the people need to look at other countries, what's happening there, and how can I be the first one in India to maybe start that, or do something along those lines, or which businesses are there in India in the stock market who are doing those things, right? So I think that's kind of one of the things to look at. So this likewise same thing I think with EV and stuff. Like I guess which are the companies in India that sell batteries, right? Which are the companies in India that have the electric lithium batteries? If there's companies in India that are producing lithium batteries, you want to be buying them because right now EV is not a big thing in India, but 10 years later it will be, right? So then that's how you want to invest, is looking at what other countries, what's doing well, lithium stocks, all these different companies, and how can I try to find my way into those companies over here. So when real estate was booming in all around the world, then at that time DLF and all these other stocks were crushing it in India. So I think Indian investing is actually easier because in America we don't have anything to go by. We're the first ones, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
as in India, you have an advantage. You can just look at what's successful in other countries, and it's going to find its way to India in 2 to 3 years. That's what you want to be investing in.
Type of thing is forward in US? Is it pharma? Is it tech? Is it mm,
I think I would look at industries like healthcare for sure, because one thing that's changing in India is like a few years ago, parents, grandparents, kids kind of live together in a house,
yeah,
right? And now it's different. People are moving out, everybody's living separately. So there's going to be like the old homes, right? The old care homes for senior citizens. That's going to be a big industry because that's happening a lot. Seniors are getting older and their kids are moving out to different countries to live, or they're, living on their own with their wives or whatever. So then there's going to be a need for care for the senior citizen. So I would look at which stocks are doing senior citizen housing, senior living. Like those would be something to either look at for stocks investing, or if you're an entrepreneur starting something of your own. I think that's going to be a big industry. Pharma is always going to be a big one, but with pharma, there's also a lot of risk, which is they're making the drug, but what if the drug doesn't get approved? Now the stock could crash. So that's a riskier investment, high reward, but also high risk. So I would continue to look at in those kind of sectors. And then if there's any companies in India that are like the leaders in AI, then you might want to look into those as well. Which company in India are leading the forefront in AI, or which ones have partnerships with maybe American companies? Because American companies can't just come directly to India, right? They have to partner with somebody. So I
yeah.
would look at which companies are good in America, which are good in India, and which ones them are either partnering or could partner. And so those are some of the research that you would have to conduct. But yeah, I think AI, senior living, lithium batteries are all going to be things to look at. Infrastructure companies too, because India infrastructure will keep getting better, right? Because India is still a developing country, so it's only going to get better. So which companies have the contracts from governments to build, infrastructure, airports, highways? So I would look into those type of sectors. Those are less riskier too.
Okay. So right now in America, the healthcare. So can I say that in America right now, at this point of time, healthcare and AI, as you said, is given a little more push, or is that a rise?
Yeah, healthcare, AI, blockchain as well, but blockchain is still very new. So blockchain is still very early. It's kind of like the early stages of internet. So it's still very early, but in the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to make a comeback. So I would look into which companies in India are into blockchain, but then you want to be very careful because there's also a lot of scams in blockchain. So it's again, it's kind of like pharma. It's a little bit risky, but there's again high risk, high reward. So there's a cryptocurrency that I really like, Algorand. That's I'm an investor in that one, and so they are doing really good stuff in India right now. They have a whole team in India, Algo Bharat, it's called. And then they are also, I think they partnered with the government to make the women's health passports so they can track the health data, and that's all built on the blockchain. So I'm looking at that, but that's more longer term investment, which might take 3 to 5 years to, make some money on.
So you're into crypto, you're also trading crypto, right?
Yeah, I'm
But
not trading it. Trading I only do for stocks. Crypto is just an investment that I have in this cryptocurrency, Algorand, and I'm just gonna hold it and see what happens.
so okay, you're in this Algorand. But do you think there's a positive curve for crypto and blockchain, still in India, or people are investing in crypto, but there are many views, there are many ups and downs about talking about crypto, several opinions. So, do you think in coming 5 years, crypto would be a little more recognized, little more better to invest? Not better than stocks, but yeah, a good choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, right now it's still very risky, but at the same time, it's also like probably the lowest it's going to be, you know? So I think there's a risk reward you have to make. But I think when it comes to investing, people should invest in stocks and stuff, majority of their income. So if you have, let's say, $100 to invest, right, 90% of that should go into stocks and long-term investments. And maybe you play with 10%, right? You can take risks with 10%. So nobody should just put all their money in one thing. So for me, majority of my money will be in stocks, more long-term stuff, the market as a whole, right? Let it go. And maybe 5-10%, I call it like, okay, speculation,
Yeah.
whether it's going to be something really big or it's going to be nothing. But then it's going to be a small percentage of my overall portfolio.
Prior new thing. Okay. Would there be any impact or anything on the stock market regarding the bond yields, the dollar index, and the US Fed acting on the interest? So recently
Mm.
about the yen thing that increasing their interest rates,
Yeah.
there was an impact. So I'd like to know about that.
Yeah, typically the markets have inverse relationship with the yen. So the yen goes up, the stock market goes down, and vice versa. So today the stock market in America went down, but that's because yen went up, right? So there's an inverse relationship to that. But long term, I think this U.S. election is going to have a lot to play. So, like, if let's say Trump gets reelected, he comes back, then probably the stock market is going to go back up, and the economy is going to be booming. Everything's going to be great. But if let's say the Democrat Party ends up winning, then there's potentially a big stock market crash that could happen because their policies are not capitalistic. Their policies are more socialistic, socialism and communism. So I think high taxes, high regulation, and that will definitely be a negative for the stock market. So I think this most people right now in America are just going to wait to see what happens in November in the elections because that's going to be a big deciding factor for the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay. Okay. Talking about that, India and even US, I feel it's at a high, and I feel there's still many potential in that. So do you have any stocks or anything in mind which they're at their highest but still have a lot of potential?
Tesla, yeah, Tesla stock, because most stocks like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they all went up big time last couple of years. Tesla actually has been going down since the last 2 3 years, but the company is doing better than ever. So I think Tesla is going to probably one that's going to go back to all-time highs again, maybe the next 2 years, or maybe less. But yeah, I think that's the leader because Tesla is definitely ignored a lot in the stock market, in the US market. Stock has not been a big performer recently, but the business is booming because the moment I mean, think about it, full self-driving is not a gimmick. That's changing the whole industry, right? I mean, why would anybody want to get a taxi or even an Uber where you can just have your own Tesla and it just drives you everywhere, right? And then they're also launching low cost models, cheaper model of Tesla, which is cheaper than, like it's much cheaper right now to buy a Tesla in America than it is to buy a Toyota or any other car. So why would anybody buy that?
Yeah.
Because once you buy an old car, it's outdated in a few years. Tesla is kind of like an iPhone. They keep updating the software through the updates. right? So the car, even though it's old, will keep getting updated with new software every year. So I think they're going to dramatically change the industry. And then on October 8th, they're announcing robo taxis, which is going to be a competitor to Uber, right? So you can just go to Tesla app, call a car, it'll see your location, the car will drive itself and come to you. You get in the car, put your destination, and you drive somewhere else. So that's happening. And then also, they're creating an Airbnb type of a model in Tesla, where let's say you own a Tesla and you're going on a holiday for like a few weeks. You can put your car on the app available for other people.
Okay.
So other people can rent your car, and then you're going to get paid rent, kind of
Yeah.
like an Airbnb. So Airbnb is a huge business, right? And I
Okay.
have many properties in Goa for Airbnbs that I have. So we collect income from that. But now imagine you can give your car like an Airbnb, and even though you're on vacation, the car is making you money. And so I think Tesla is going to be the big leader in the next few years. And I mean, there's a lot of other stuff they're doing. Optimus robots are coming out soon. Again, that's still more like a long term. But I think just the car business alone, full self driving alone, is billions of dollars worth of business. So I think, yeah, Tesla's a great one to look at for the time being. Yeah.
Do you have a success story, or a story about some stock or any event that you shocked you? If the stock performed so well, or something that happened that you just couldn't predict, or couldn't see.
Not really, because I don't make a lot of like decisions based on uncertainty. So like every time I trade, I have my levels that I'm looking at. So
Okay.
I don't tend to get caught off guard that much. But I think crypto obviously has been the big one. Recently everything's started to come down again. Majority of the cryptocurrencies are down a lot. But I think nothing really that surprises me. Like I've been doing this for 14 years now. So it's like I've seen everything. I've
Yeah.
seen the movie play out many times. So it's kind of like how the movie's going to end.
Yeah.
So maybe when I was new, things would surprise me, these big moves that are happening in the markets. But right now, nothing surprises me because it's like I've seen the movie before. I know how it ends. Yeah.
Okay. If you don't mind sharing with us, uh, would you like to tell that what all horizons that you have tapped in, which, like, okay, so you told us that you have your active income where, you use up your rent and everything from the day trading, as said. But what all have you tapped in that, some of them are, via passive, as you told about you have some properties in Goa, you're also invested for long term in crypto. So what all have you, been a part of, or are you currently in?
Yeah. So stocks, options, crypto, real estate, startup companies. I've been an investor in a few different companies. And then obviously my own personal brand, Live Traders. So we have training, online academy. I do live events. So my book, I have a journal as well, success journal. So a lot of different things. And I think the key is that what I was talking to you about earlier. Once you build your own brand, you can
Yeah.
do anything,
Yeah.
right? You can go into real estate, you can go into online stuff, you can go into anything because people who are there are following you. They're not following you for you being a trader, they're following you as a person. So then whatever you do will end up being successful if you build a good brand. So I think, yeah, I dabble in everything, wherever I see opportunity, because what I don't want to do is tie myself into like one bucket, because again, what if something happens to me and I can't trade anymore? That's going to be a disaster. So then it gives me comfort to know, okay, I have some investments long term that are going to work. I'm trading every day. I'm teaching people. I have my online academy, and then I'll take some money and I'll start putting it in real estate. So then there's different buckets happening. So I'm not going to be reliant on like one thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think, but most people should not jump in and start doing everything to start. Because when
Yeah.
I first started, trading was the only thing, right? So until I become successful at that, I didn't do anything else. Once I became successful, then you can start looking at other things. A lot of people want to do everything and they don't do anything well once, right? So you need to have your main bucket, and then you can put the main bucket and have money go into smaller buckets. But everybody should have that one main bucket.
Okay. Okay. So, well, that's actually well, I've seen people, doing, but uh, after creating a personal brand, I think at a point it's a little difficult to hold on to that, because then you start tapping into various horizons, and it's just, you cannot control everything. So you might lose a lot of money in something, you might gain a little from there. I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's what diversification is, right? That if one loses money, the other will make money. So overall, you're going to be fine. But if you only have one thing and that one thing goes down, then you're in problem.
Yeah.
So that's the whole diversification. Not everything's going to go up. Maybe one day stocks are going up, but the business is slow. But that's why you need to have all these different buckets so that one is going down, the other might be going up.
How do you make the most of the market volatility? If as you are a professional trader, you might have many things to know about that. But someone not a beginner, but who's into this for like 3 to 4 years, they're
Mhm.
making they're not making much money, but they are. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're an investor, you should not even look at the everyday.
Hmm.
Because the thing about it, if you're investing something for long term, why are you looking at the price every day?
Correct.
Right? That's a recipe for failure. Because you just said, I'm going to invest in the long term for 5 years, and now you're looking at the price every few minutes. That's it's contrary to your goal, right? So I think the best way to learn how to do that is to ride the volatility, is to not look at the price every day. Look at it every year. Okay, this year my money was X. 1st January, how much is it now? Right. So I think that is one thing, because only people who should be looking at the price every day is traders, because we're trying to time the volatility. We're trying to take advantage of the volatility. Right. But as an investor, you have no business looking at the volatility. Because if you did, you would probably be selling it. Now it makes you emotional. Oh, market's going down. I should sell. And you sell it. And then 2 months later, it goes back up. You're like, I should have held it. So I think those type of things is to not look at the volatility is the best way to do it. Is just to ride it, be comfortable with it, because ups and ebbs and flows. Life is all about this, right? Like life is ups and downs. You're gonna have ups and downs, just like your heart rate. If you track your heart rate in a monitor, it's gonna go up and down. If it's flat, you're dead, right? So volatility is part of life. So
Yeah.
you gotta get comfortable with that volatility.
Yeah, get it. Okay. What's the craziest thing that you have done to pursue this passion or to get there?
Craziest thing I've done. I mean, putting all my money at one point, because when I started the first business here, I put all my life savings in there. So
Okay.
it could have gone the other way. It could have failed and I could have been back to zero. But yeah, that would probably be the craziest thing I did. But I had such a belief in my goal that I was like, I will give it my all. If I fail, I will fail with honor. I will fail with that, hey, at least I tried. And then I can always rebuild, because money can always make back. If you lose money, you can always make it back. But one thing you're never going to get back is your time, or wasted opportunity. Right? When universe gives you an opportunity and you're like, I'm kind of scared, I don't want to go all in, and then you waste that opportunity. Whereas the people who have made it to any level in life, they've taken that opportunity. Elon Musk, when he started PayPal, he made $1 billion something dollars. He put all of his money in Tesla, all of it, and he lived in a friend's couch.
Mm.
That's how much belief he had in his goal, right? All of my money, I'm gonna live in my friend's couch. He's a billionaire. He's living on a friend's couch because he went all in.
Yeah.
Imagine he never went all in. We would not know who Elon Musk is today, right? But we know him because he took that risk. And then he took all that money from Tesla, put it in SpaceX. And then now he bought Twitter, $44 billion loan he took, put himself on the line to buy the company. So anybody who's become anybody in life knows how to take risks. And they know that to get to the next level, things will get tough also, kind of like a video game, right? You play a video game and you beat a level, the next level is tougher. Each level will keep getting tougher and tougher, but that shows you that you're taking action and you're improving in life.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if you could have dinner with a person, it may be entrepreneur, actor, uh, dead or alive, who would
Hmm.
it, and yeah.
Yeah, I would say probably Elon Musk or Donald Trump.
Okay.
Yeah, from people who are alive, yeah, Elon Musk, Donald Trump. Another philosopher I like a lot, Werner Erhard. Not many people know about him, but Werner Erhard, I learned a lot from him. So I think those three people, all alive. So those would be kind of my choice there.
And would you say that personally, me or many people out there like us, should we also look up to them, or like we should follow them properly?
Yeah, I think everybody should, but don't follow them as far as like everything that they're saying. Just look at their life. Look at it from not like every word that they're saying, right? Look at it, what they've done in their life, the actions that they've taken. Because even like with Donald Trump, a lot of people say, oh, he had his rich parents or whatever, and they gave him $1 million to start. But yeah, but then he took that million, turned into billions. So there's actions behind it. So observe their life almost like a third person that is observing. Like I call myself like I'm a philosopher. I'm just stepping back and I observe people. I look at what they've done in their life. So yeah, I think that you should study all the people. The best part in this world right now is all the information is on our fingertips. I mean, you could like back in the day, you could not have that. Now you can go on their Twitter, see what they think, how they talk, and all of these things you can study. So learn how to become a student of the successful people, study their successes because you can model that, right? You can do the same things that they've done. So try to model your life based on whoever wants to do, but pick the person in the industry who you aspire to be, right? So let's say if your goal is to launch the number one podcast, who's the number one podcast in this industry? How can we learn from them? What have they done? Going back on their channel, look at the first video they ever put out. Look at how they've grown, what they're changing. Oh, they changed certain things in this video here. So learning how to become a student of your work is the biggest thing you can do. Like I'm a lifelong student. I learn something new every day. I still have my own coaches. I still have my own mentors that I talk to. I will find, okay, let's say I want to meet this billionaire. I want to have lunch with him. Which charity does he support? How can I donate to his charity? Have lunch with him? Like there's a lot of things you can do. You just have to be resourceful and you have to put yourself out there, you know, and you might get a lot of no's, but just get comfortable. Each no gets you closer to a yes.
Okay. And are these three people that you actually look up to, or there are others?
I mean, there's a lot of people, but these three top of my mind, I would say if I was to pick somebody to have lunch with or dinner with, I'd pick these three. But again, I learn from everybody. There's so many, all the books that I read, they're all my mentors,
Yeah.
right? I spend time with them every day. So that's how you got to look at it. It's not like I'm reading a book. I look at it like I'm spending time with the author, right? And I try to put myself in their state of mind on how they're thinking.
Okay. So, what's the best piece of advice that anyone has ever given you? And what's the best piece of advice that you would give it to us?
Best piece of advice that I would give and what I've also received is be true to your word. When you say something, make sure you mean it and make sure you do it. And not just do it, but do it when you said you were going to do it, right? A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to start this thing on Monday. And then comes Monday, but it's like the 28th of the month. So you're like, oh, I'm just going to start from the 1st. And then the 1st comes in, but it's like November. So I'll start from 1st January. So we keep moving the timeline on our own goals forward and forward and forward. So we never achieve it. So the key is when you say something, do it, mean it, and also complete it when you said you were going to do it. If you said, I'm going to do this by 3rd of this, next week by Tuesday, then make sure it's done by next week of Tuesday. And there's no excuses. A lot of people would say, oh, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I was supposed to do it, but I didn't do it. That doesn't fix anything because guess what? You're going to do it again. Your sorry means absolutely nothing. You're going to do it again. So what can we put in place to ensure it doesn't happen again? So every day, all of my days in a calendar, right? Everything is, I go by my calendar. If it's not on my calendar and somebody calls me, I'm not going to answer. If you're not on my calendar, it's not going to happen. So because I'm working towards my goal. So I go from calendar to calendar. Like I have another call in 8 minutes. So I'm going to be on that call and I'm just going to keep my day moving forward and forward.
Okay. Okay. So I'll just end it in a few minutes.
Sure.
Last few things I want to ask is that can you share a personal growth or something personal hack that can help us achieve much more?
Yeah, there are many different things. So, like in the book, I wrote about 10 keys for making it in life, right? So, one of the keys we already talked about, which is integrity, which is do what you said you're going to do, right? The other thing also we kind of talked about, which is to not get stuck in the learning loop where you keep learning things all the time, you keep reading books, you keep listening to podcasts, but you don't actually do anything,
Yeah.
right? Because you have to you have to take action on it. So, that's the number one other thing. But from my life, I noticed both of those things early on in my life that I was at a lack of integrity. I would say, oh, I'm going to do this. And then, oh, I forgot about it. I'll do it next week. And you just keep doing it. And then now, before you know it, like you're 30 years old and you're like, oh, shit, I didn't do anything. So you need to take action. So I saw that in my own life that I would say that I would do this, or somebody would call me. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll get it done. I'll send it to you next week. And then next week comes, I forget about it. So I think noticing that in my own life and fixing that was the biggest thing. But then other thing is anytime I learn something new now, I always ask myself, okay, how am I going to apply this to my life? Otherwise, it's a waste of knowledge. Throw it out of the window if you can't apply it. So if I read something online, if I read an article, if I listen to somebody's podcast, I'm going to say, okay, what did I learn? How am I going to apply it into my life? Right. So those type of things will keep you moving every day. And every night there's one thing that I do. So I have this journal that I created. It's called Success Journal. So in that, every evening, there's a section I write down critical 6 tasks, right? I write it in the evening. What are the 6 things that I need to do next morning when I wake up to get closer to my goals, right? And I write them not in the morning. I write them in the evening because then I wake up, I already know what I'm going to do. I
Yeah.
know that, okay, nothing matters. Nobody's phone calls matter until I achieve those 6 things. When I do those 6 things, then I can do whatever I want. I can go play golf. I can do whatever I want to do with my life. But first, only thing I care about is when I wake up is those 6 things. So, and you don't want to write that in the morning because when the morning starts, the day started, you're running around, you're never going to do it. So you plan the day ahead and then you schedule that day. So think about, okay, Maulik, what is your ideal day in your life? What is like, if you did everything this day, you would call it, oh, this was an amazing day, right? Maybe it's like if I go to the gym, I do a podcast, I work on my business, I do all these things, then I'm going to feel really good that I use the day productively, right? So you write down what would your ideal day be, and then open up your calendar and put all those things in schedule. So then guess what? Next morning, you're going to have your ideal day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anmol, for giving your time.